Right, welcome to another hashtag 530 live. We have with Simon as usual and Luke as usual. Do you want to do introductions or should we just crack on with it? It's up to you. Do you want to introduce yourself? Yeah, go on, introduce yourselves. Go on.
Go on, Luke,
Simon, after
after
you,
you.
mate.
No,
Oh,
after
go on.
you.
Go on then. Go on then. Yeah, hi everyone. Luke from LW Digital. Been on a few of these with Adam, talking all things digital marketing over the past few weeks. Run a digital marketing agency that essentially helps small to medium-sized businesses go online, no matter what business, no matter what size, and no matter what budget.
Wow, I've got to follow that, have I?
Go on.
I'm Simon. I'm the marketing manager at Poppy Design Studios. We basically focus on WordPress websites and graphic design, but I head up the marketing here. And I'm also going to be the host of the digital marketing show on Elite Live Radio very shortly. So love talking digital with people these days compared to when I was an accountant many years ago. So looking forward to tonight's conversation as well.
Yeah, excellent. And obviously, I'm Adam Payne, Business Growth Academy and Coaching, and this is going out on my Facebook page. So, we're talking all things Twitter for business, I suppose, and pleasure, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to cover groups, hours, lists, TweetDeck, and spaces. So, who wants to kick off? We're talking groups.
Groups. Define what you mean by groups. Come on, let's
Well,
get this absolutely spot on.
I'm in one, but I don't go in it. But I see the activity in there, and I see the community that it's driven, and it is a bloody good community. And that is one that's called like the hashtag GB manufacturing one, and it's a group. I think you're only allowed about 50 people in it, and they're all just generally chatting and talking on a daily basis. And it is similar to probably a Facebook group, but on Twitter. But I haven't really. I used to have some good conversations with it, but then I've sort of like come away from Twitter a little bit. I still post, but I am looking to bolster it some more and push it some more. And I did find that these groups formed that community and that engagement quite well. So I don't know whether any of you are in any groups or anything like that. No, because it fascinated me because they are on it every single day, just communicating, just via text, whilst they're at work. And they're all business owners and leaders of manufacturing businesses. And so I think
it's incredible, isn't it?
So I think there's an opportunity there as well within again creating a community like Facebook and within Twitter. If you've got the following, create the group.
Yeah.
Invite
If you don't mind, I'll just jump in on that. The only time I've ever used a group on Twitter is actually with my friends, more of a sociable thing, finding tweets that we all like and share. But one thing I will say on that from a business and a social point of view is the ease of which you can drop a tweet into a group straight away. And the ease of which you can share information within a group straight away. So, I'll be surfing through Twitter, scrolling through my feed and find a tweet. And within literally, I think it is 2 clicks, you click a button next to the tweet and share, and the groups instantly pop up and it's 1 click and that's it, bang, it's straight into a group chat. And I think for businesses on Twitter, potentially what you could be doing there is searching certain hashtags, looking at certain Twitter accounts and big businesses, etc., that are providing guidance and sharing that information within a matter of seconds if you find anything valuable. So I think from a group's point of view, like you said, Adam, about constantly engaging throughout the day, they're great for that as sort of like a little Dropbox of information and storing things in. Say, here you go, guys, have a look at this. I found this earlier today, or check this out, this new technology or something like that. Could be a really useful way of using them.
Yeah, because that reminded me of something today around where you were saying you'd share something into the group. I read something about this, and I'd never come across it before, and perhaps I should have, particularly within the digital marketing side, is this 4-1-1 ratio. So for what they're saying, for every one self-serving post, you should post 1 relevant post, and most importantly, share 4 pieces of relevant content written by others. And I reckon that, again, is a great tactic within social media for getting engagement. I'd never heard of it. I'd come across it today. I'd never heard of it. 4-1-1.
Yeah, I'd heard of the rule of thirds. I mean, it was always like third, share stuff, third, talk about what you're up to, and I forgot what the other third was. But I mean, I'm going back like 10 years ago when this first came on the scene and things like that. And I can't believe I've been on Twitter 10 years. It's incredibly flown by really quickly. It's been absolutely a great journey, I must admit, as well. So that's why I was really looking forward to tonight's conversation, actually, because I love Twitter. It's great.
So, are you in any groups then, Simon?
No.
No. Okay. Yeah. No. I'm in that one, but I don't go in it. I am going to sort of like investigate it a little bit more. All right, what about hours? I mean, I suppose for me, you all know I do the hashtag manufacturing hour, and I love the hashtag manufacturing hours. I don't do many others because it's finding out where they are. But the facilitating that hour, my God, it's just full on because I asked two questions. And my advice would be, as anybody running an hour, is to ask a question. One about 10 minutes in, and then one about 25 minutes in. Because it really does drive the engagement, the biggest one was on last night's one was should we have a Marshall Plan on for manufacturing? Now, a Marshall Plan was done back in World War II, with the Americans giving funding to the Western Europe to rebuild after World War II, and should something like that be in the budget? Now, that's quite a big question, and that drove loads of comments. So the hours. I think can be fantastic for engagement. I don't know what you both feel.
I was just going to ask, Adam, could you just clarify what you mean by an hour and the format of an hour? And because for some people might not know what an hour on Twitter is. So if you just want to clarify that.
So I have called what the hashtag manufacturing hour. So that for that hour, everything is all around posting that anything relevant to manufacturing with the hashtag manufacturing hour on it. And generally discussing and bringing manufacturers together, engineers. Well, it's not just manufacturers. We get marketers, we get engineers, we get all manner of people coming into it, and driving conversation and building engagement and getting to know one another. I mean, I think next week I'm actually going to do where you should to ask them to introduce each other around what they do. Because we've never done that, and I think that should happen as well, so people understand what what people do. But yeah, it's just posting within the hour for that certain set period around a typical or a topic or a certain sector. I know Coventry Chamber have them. I know that some of the growth hubs have them. I know Made in Britain have them. So I think they are quite popular. Yeah. Don't know how many there are. Do you use them?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they've been around for a few years. The one I engage with quite a bit is Northants Hour. So on a Thursday night between 8 and 9, everyone goes on there that's in the area or wants to talk to people in the area on Twitter, and they put a tweet out, hashtag Northants Hour. Now, the great thing with it, I find you get a lot of smaller businesses on there that are wanting to reach out and communicate. I've made some great connections over the years through it. And actually, a couple of years ago, and I must be going back about 6 or 7 years ago now, somebody actually called a face-to-face fundraiser and brought everyone together one night. We actually raised money for a local charity, so it was a real sort of like community feel behind it. But it's brilliant, I find, because you've got local people coming together who are wanting to engage about a particular topic. And I slept out with the homeless recently, and I put in Northants Hour, look, I was doing this, and people were just sharing it for me and everything, because it was a local charity we were raising money for. The other great success story I've got for you with those hours, back in, I think it was 2013. I'm going back. We've had a year of COVID, so it was definitely around 2013. I took on a challenge of visiting 92 football clubs inside 92 hours in a car, and it was 2,500 miles driving around the UK. And I thought, how can I build contacts in different areas? So what I did was literally, I put into Google and I put Twitter hours, come up with all the various Twitter hours. I found Birmingham Hour, Devon Hour, and all these places. And I was actually asking people on Twitter, as we were part of our planning, what can we do? Because what that was doing was raising awareness of what we're actually doing, building followers behind the Twitter account of the charity, the challenge that we had done. But also, we were getting the information we needed, and I was absolutely fine with it all until we saw like Devon police were following us on Twitter, and I'm thinking, oh no, we're being followed by the police. But it was absolutely brilliant, prime example of how you could use Twitter hours to engage with people in a different part of the country, providing you know what hour they're obviously all going to be online together.
Yeah.
So
superb.
big fan of them.
Yeah, superb. What about you, Luke?
So I'll be honest, I've never actually participated in a Twitter hour. I don't know whether it's because it's not something that people in my, because from my demographic and from what I'm experienced from Twitter, there's not a lot of focus on business on Twitter. That is the most sociable platform. So we'll go on there in a free time rather than a business time. But after what Simon just said, particularly about the small business stuff, that sounds absolutely brilliant. And what I was going to say, Adam, my question to you is, so by this you mean people will tweet out with a hashtag and link together by, let's say, hashtag 5:30 live hour if we did one, and people then tweet around that subject, right? But recently, I think it was a few years ago now, Twitter bought Periscope, didn't they? A live stream platform. Now, what I thought when I initially heard of Twitter hours was that somebody might host a Twitter hour on Periscope and then get some live interaction that way. Through it, with people asking questions in the chat. So maybe, that could be a way of making an hour slightly different and more interactive. If somebody did come on and do a live stream, let's say, with the manufacturing hour, and then everybody in the chat would ask questions and it sort of turns it into a bit of a Q&A. But I can definitely see the value in it, actually, those Twitter hours.
Well, yeah, I know we're going to talk about spaces, but you bring up around what you could utilise going forward.
Yeah.
And spaces is obviously the Clubhouse equivalent on Twitter, and you create the hour and then have it audio when you're creating the room and everybody joins into the room at that particular time. That I think could be absolutely superb from that, having the conversations. I'd be interested to see how these spaces go, but I suppose we'll come on to that a bit later. But the hours I found have been fantastic. It drives a great community, and I suppose you could then link that with sort of like a group, so creating a group around the manufacturing hour, I suppose, or however you wanted to do it. From that. Now, lists.
Hold on, before we go into lists, Luke, I've got some really bad news for you.
Go on.
Periscope is being discontinued as of the 31st of March. I've just double checked it.
Yeah, see, I hadn't heard of it for a couple of years. That's why I said a couple of years, because they sort of blew up a little bit. Twitter bought it, and then it just sort of got integrated. So they're discontinuing that. So that would even more feed into what we're going to talk about with the spaces side of things later on, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So lists. Yeah. I don't use lists, but then again, it wouldn't surprise you because I'm not a big Twitter user. You say you're not a big Twitter user. We've got 5 accounts, one for each business.
You twit.
So yeah, I can't really say that I don't really use Twitter colour because I've got a number of accounts. But yeah, lists. Because I do notice that I get, I think I've had some today, where somebody's put me in a list. And I've never quite understood what this is about or what the benefit of it is or how you utilise that.
Okay. So I use them and I think they're really useful. We're gonna come on to TweetDeck in a minute, but basically what I've done is in my Twitter account I've actually got key contacts that I want to engage with or follow or almost segment. So if you imagine your Twitter following as a filing cabinet. Not that I haven't used paper and filing cabinets for many years, but if you can imagine your Twitter account is actually a filing cabinet, your top drawer could be your Twitter list. So in that top drawer will be key specific information that you want to get access to quickly. So where I use it, if I get followed by, let's use football and rugby, of course, Adam. Let's use football and rugby as an example. If I got followed by all the football and rugby clubs, for example, and I wanted to put them in a filing cabinet or a list for football clubs only, and one for rugby, that is effectively what the list is all about. And what it means is when you're looking at the information going out live, as people do, you can actually drill into the data a little bit more. And I think they're very powerful things to be able to use.
Okay, so now if I think around that then, from a business perspective, you could almost use it as the funnel, the customer value journey. So Absolutely. As people are going through the different stages to end up as customers, you can segment people that you're following into customers, so you can engage with them more. People that are becoming subscribers to you, you can engage with them. So completely
think
makes
radio,
sense.
Right? I'm going to keep going on about radio. You know what? I love the radio, right? So if you think about a radio station will follow people on Twitter. They're going to follow the local sports clubs, the local press, the local pubs, the local businesses. If they then want to look at segregating out that data to what is a priority, so obviously breaking news and local news and probably local authority news would be key information to share on a radio station, then what they're going to be doing is putting probably a Twitter list together for literally key contacts, probably one for sport so that it fits in line with the radio show, and then probably one for business so that it fits in line with a business show, for example. But it also means, you know what people are like these days, if they're going to have a rant or they're going to share some news or whatever, the first thing they do is probably go onto social media, and chances are it'll be Twitter. So, if you can then, have a look at what you can do with regards to, segregating it out, it means you only have to follow some of that key information. So I've got loads of things I follow, but is it really engaging during the day or is it really engaging at the weekend? So I can segregate that information out by putting the key information I want into my key list, which if you go onto my Twitter at SimonCox73, you'll see on there that there is a list that you can probably see, which has got called key contacts. which has obviously got the key information I want to see. If not, all the other stuff can just wait for the weekend.
And does that mean when you list? So if I went onto your profile, would I be able to see your lists?
You can lock it. I can stop you from seeing that. I'm actually going to have a look now as we speak, actually, to see whether it is locked or not. But
and I think, guys, I'm right in saying you can discover new lists as well. So you can actively find other people's lists that are available and sort of have a look at what's on there, and maybe just to get ideas for creating your own lists or finding some key contacts within certain industries or spaces, like Simon has said, within that. If there was, let's say, Adam, you had a list for everybody within that manufacturing hour, or Simon had one within the Northants hour on a list, and those small business owners, again, segregated down from the Northants hour, that would be a great little resource bank on Twitter to go and find some local business or some potential clients or customers, couldn't it?
Okay. Yeah. So, do you use lists then, Luke?
Again, it's not something I've actually looked into doing myself. I'm more use the notification side of things, so I'll enable notifications on certain accounts that I want to get notified whenever they're active on there, rather than segregating people that follow me or that I follow. So certain key accounts, again, it could be within sport, it could be within business. Every time they tweet, I'll get a notification. But the list side of things, no, I've not actually looked into doing that. So I think, again, with trying to use Twitter more for business purposes going forward, it's definitely something that I should try and get into.
It does make sense, as Simon's explained it there. It does make sense from a business perspective. Well, both business and personal perspective, it makes sense. That does.
Yeah.
So,
just don't make any lists about people you don't like and put it publicly. Then that's probably something to avoid.
And that's for ranting on social media. I mean,
you can lock them, Luke. You can. Yeah. Mine's got a padlock on, so no one can actually see who I've actually added. And also, I think you get a notification. So if you get added to that list, you actually get a notification to say that you've actually been added as well.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah, ranting. I must admit, I do like to rant. I did one on LinkedIn yesterday, and I know Luke's seen it. So I think it was yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday. Wasn't it?
Yeah, it was me. It was yesterday.
And Simon did actually, because Simon commented on it as well. Yes, I remember. So yeah. So does that link into then Tweetdeck?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Now now is Tweetdeck within Twitter, or is it external? Is it, because I've heard of it, but I've never sort of accessed it or looked at it or know much about it.
So the beautiful thing with Tweetdeck, it's free of charge. Tweetdeck.com is the website people need to go to have a look at it. It's a fantastic, very powerful tool. I did some Twitter training with some business consultants all over the UK at Luton Airport. Must have been about 5 or 6 years ago, and demonstrated the power of Tweetdeck. It's literally a free product. All you need to do is go to tweetdeck.com and log in with your Twitter account, and then you've got the opportunity then of being able to drill into your Twitter. So again, the Twitter list, for example, very much like Hootsuite, if I go onto TweetDeck at any time, I've got live information coming through in various columns. Now, going back to the lists, I could have one with local information, which have got key contacts in there from that Twitter list, and have that as a separate column away from my general noise that's going on. I can have a list that's got all my mentions, so it's very similar to Hootsuite, but it is literally solely focused on Twitter, and I think it's very powerful, very, very powerful.
Okay, so Luke, do you use TweetDeck?
So I tend to go for the Hootsuite approach, because it is exactly the certain layout, but within that you can sort of flick between different social medias throughout the day and have a check what's going on. But I think, like Simon says, again, we go back to those hours that we just talked about. If you are doing an hour, you can have a stream of people on a list that are key within that hour that you find really interesting. You can have the hashtags trending up on there and see if the hour is starting to gain traction on Twitter. Notifications, again, another stream that you can have on the same screen, see if people are talking to you or about you. So yeah, I think that's it's a really useful tool, and just the layout and making things easy. I know, Adam, you've got 3 screens on your layout, and have the potential there to have that just in the background all day and just keep having a glance over, see what's trending, see what's going on. Just have it, like I said, in the background. I think it is a useful tool. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I use because I test, because I have one account on Buffer, one account on Hootsuite, one account on Promo Republic, because I test each piece of software to what the usability is like. And I must admit, I do like Hootsuite because it does have that good analytics around it. And there's also some good things like I'd showed before, where you can search for keywords within, so where you are from a location. You can put a radius in and see if there's some keywords or hashtags that are coming up, so you can actually track those and look at those posts as well in a certain area, which I've found quite interesting in prospecting. And also what's not being posted in that area as well. So you could get some traction probably that way as well. So that brings us on now to the new one. I don't know when it's going to be introduced, which is Spaces. So have you heard of Spaces before? I'd come across it today. I'd read about it today, and then funny enough, a contact on LinkedIn, Charlie Wyman, mentioned to me about Spaces as well. So it looks like they are testing these audio rooms, so like Clubhouse. So has anybody else had any or know of anything around Spaces as yet?
So I'd love to say I learned of it yesterday ahead of you, but I didn't actually learn it from you. So I actually saw your post go out and I thought, oh, what's Adam on about Spaces for? And I thought, oh, okay, this is what's been rumoured for a while. So I'm really intrigued. I really look forward to seeing what it's all about. I mean, I've just checked my Twitter account. I think 116,000 tweets later, you can see I love Twitter. So I'll be engaged and interested and intrigued to see exactly what it's all going to be about. And what value it adds, because I was very pro Clubhouse, but let's just see what this is about, shall we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if just on the conversations we've just had there, is if on the manufacturing hours, you just open it up and just open up that room and just if this is how it works, saying right, the manufacturing hour, let's do the text, but whilst we're doing the text, let's have a discussion as well. So let's open it up and see how it works, because I think that has some fantastic opportunity for me for bringing the community of that hour closer, because text is good, can be cold, and it can be read wrongly, whereas if you got voice audible, it could make a lot of difference. What are your thoughts, Luke?
I'm just thinking now, like Simon, I'd love to say I knew about it before you, Adam. Again, didn't know about it until I saw it on your LinkedIn and stuff like that. But what I will say, just thinking out loud on this, right? One of the things on Clubhouse that I found when we were all going on it at the start, and there was a bit of hype about it, was it was hard to sort of negotiate around the app and find new interesting things and find new trends, let's say, and new things that you're interested in. However, on Twitter, within the space of 2 seconds, you can type a hashtag in and the top related thing to that hashtag will come up, and the latest thing related to that hashtag will come up. Now, what I'm thinking is, in regards to Spaces on Twitter, is, if you've got a few thousand followers on Twitter or a few hundred followers on Twitter, and you created a space and they started tweeting a hashtag to do with this space, again, manufacturing hour could be one. Adam, for you, hashtag manufacturing hour. There's a big chance there that you can be in a live room with the hashtag manufacturing hour attached to that tweet and that space. People are tweeting around the manufacturing hour, so again, making it rank higher locally within the algorithm of Twitter and all that sort of good stuff, whilst you're still pinned as the top for manufacturing hour. And it just seems like potentially with Twitter's hashtags and the way they work really well, there's going to be a lot of opportunity to get that space or that room seen by a lot of people very quickly and get them in very quickly to that room, which, unlike Clubhouse, you have to sort of wait for an invite or you have to search it out for yourself. So, those live rooms could potentially fill up really quickly on Twitter, and you could build an audience very quickly live on Twitter. So that's what I'm initially thinking on that. And again, like Clubhouse, we said as well, you got to start from scratch, gain followers. There's a lot of people on there trying to get a lot of followers very quickly on this now. But on Twitter, I've never really seen the need for a lot of followers to get something to go viral. I think we touched on it last week. It only takes a couple of tweets to get a bit of traction with retweets and likes, and that second and third interaction from people's friends, etc. And then it sort of goes and gets a lot of impressions. And I think getting a room, like I just said, live to a large amount of people very quickly could be really, really easy on Twitter if it takes off. So that's what I'm thinking initially on that. I don't think you'd need a lot of followers on Twitter to get necessarily a good attendance in a space.
Yeah. What about you, Simon?
Go on.
Go on. No, you go. You're up.
Well, I was just going to tell you some more experience at Twitter, actually, that I've had. When Northampton Football Club got into difficulties a couple of years ago financially, I tweeted about something, and Bobby Gould or I think it was Trevor Gould, who was connected with the football club at the time. He retweeted it, and then Bobby Gould saw it, who was the Wales, I think ex-Wales football manager, and I think it had something like 138 retweets. Just literally went nuts very quickly. The fact that my tweet like had gone like viral, it was crazy. But it's such a great tool, and because the media are still using it, and it's still very current, considering it's been going for a good number of years now. I don't think Twitter's ever going to disappear, because every time you go on to Britain's Got Talent, for example, and you see the hashtag BGT, immediately you go onto Twitter and have a look and see what people are saying, and some of the stuff is quite comical. Let's be fair, that they're joking and saying, "Oh no, that's not for me," and all this lot, especially when it's Britain's Got Talent. But when you sort of look at how it's all evolved over the years, I cannot see it going away, because the minute I see a hashtag, I think Twitter.
Yeah, and I think it was you, Simon, that said this too. I can't remember. I'm sure it was. That
I'm worried now.
Some of the news and some of the stuff. If you wanted it, if something was cracking off in the news, you could find out quicker on Twitter around what was happening than you could anywhere else, because it was like
Simon, it was live. It was something that was happening live, and you were checking regularly. I think it was the riots in London. I think you mentioned, Simon.
It was the Enfield riots. I had a friend of mine who lives in North London and actually messaged me saying, check out this tweet, and I was like, all right. I had a quick look on Twitter and I thought, what's he on about? And then you look at the hashtag of Enfield riots, and some of the stuff was actually going out quicker than the media were reporting it, because as all this social media has come into play over the years, we've seen this, all the media is just like, they're feeding off it, they're looking for stories. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of fake news out there, a hell of a lot of fake news as well. And also it has given a voice to people to actually report stuff, which you think, it's just not even newsworthy. But as it was going out, obviously people were putting stuff out there very quickly. So anytime anything happens, get onto Twitter and you'll see people who are unofficial, unprofessional, unpaid reporters tweeting about it, or their honest and open views. And a lot of the media will use Twitter to actually try and engage with people. So a great hashtag to follow is journo request. So for the journalists, because obviously they're putting information out there saying, if you follow the journo request hashtag, journalists are literally saying that I need an expert who's in, I don't know, manufacturing. So they actually put that with the hashtag of journo request. If you go on there, Adam, and have a look at it, the chances are you could get an opportunity to be featured in an article in the media because you've answered the journalist.
Okay, we'll have to have a look, because it does seem that way. Is that it is? I don't think it'll ever go away, because it is that. I think I read somewhere early on today that it is used for very, very much the political news feed, and is very, very popular for keeping up to date with that. Except that the acceptance is that there is a lot of fake stuff out there, but it's still the place where most people turn to. That doesn't surprise me at all. I think I've got to get. I used to be into it, but I think I've got to get more into it with Twitter. It's because,
Adam, just to give you an idea of numbers. Sorry to jump in, but again, I had a tweet the other week that I had 300 likes. It was a football related tweet. It was nothing big. It was something to do with football, and it had 300 likes. Now, 300 likes is not a huge amount, but the reach that tweet got ended up having around 30,000 impressions in the space of a couple of hours, right? So that's only 300 likes leading to, again, 30,000 impressions, 100 times that, the amount of likes from people that have seen it. And compared to another platform like LinkedIn, you have to have a second connection or a third connection sometimes to see people's posts. And it works exactly the same on Twitter, but only it seems to spread a lot quicker, if that makes sense. That sort of organic reach and wide reach seems to happen a lot quicker. And I think that is one of the things with Twitter and Spaces that could, again, like I said 5 minutes ago, that could be the one that really helps those spaces, because the word of something new happening, or the quickness of getting the word out there of something new, could be a room, could be a space, could be a piece of news, but that happens so quickly on Twitter. So compared to the other social networks, I think things do spread like wildfire, sort of, compared to other platforms on Twitter, good or bad. It's worth noting.
Here's a bit of advice for you, actually, and you mentioned your football there, Luke. I love my football, as people know as well, and about 7 or 8 years ago, I was looking at producing a digital magazine with somebody. They came to me and said, look, we want to do this magazine called World of Football, and I went, great, let's have a look on Twitter, see if anybody's doing it. and we discovered that there was a Twitter account called World of Football. So I followed them, they followed me back, and I approached them and I said, look, would you like to sell that Twitter handle? Because we'd love your Twitter account. And they went, yeah, funny enough, we're going to offer it. And I said, how much? Now I'm thinking, I don't buy these things, because when you register a Twitter account, it's like a personalised number plate. It's yours, and nobody else can have it. So I said, look, I'll give you 50 quid. And he went, 100. I went, all right, no problem. So I paid £100 for this Twitter account. He gave me the password. The minute I got it, I changed it. And I thought, brilliant, I now own a great Twitter account. The one thing I missed, and this is a word of warning to anybody, if you're looking at doing this, was World of Football was actually World of FOOTBA11. So as you actually looked at it, though, they'd actually called the account World of Football, but the actual Twitter account had 2 1s on the end, and it wasn't 2 L's. And I tell you what, it was 100 quid I never got back. Because obviously I went to him and I said, look, hold on a minute. I thought I was buying this. And he said, well, now you've changed the password. Effectively, you've taken ownership of it. And I thought, do you know what? Fair play. So just a word of warning with things like Twitter accounts and things like that. Obviously people do register them and not use them. And you think, yeah, great. Do you know what? I can make someone a cheeky offer to buy that off them. And just make sure you know what you're buying, because I didn't.
Well, on that side of it as well, I've seen loads of people sort of spreading fake news on Twitter, changing their handle to a journalist's name and changing out a couple of letters with numbers, changing their profile picture to exactly the same as that person's profile picture. And unless you really look into it, then, like you said, it looks on paper like it's the correct account and it's the right name. So yeah, just be careful when you are seeing stuff on Twitter, just to check the username and the validity of what people are saying in their account. Yeah, spot on.
Excellent. Shall we wrap it up there? I think we've
Why not? Yeah.
exhausted everything. Superb. Thank you very much for joining me again this week, and we shall do another one next week. So have a great week, everybody. Catch you later.
Good stuff. See you.